Is it live? No, it's live. Hi. Oh, sorry. Hi, Ben. Welcome
And
to
we're
Venture
like,
Grace.
hey guys, how you doing?
I'm good.
How
I'm
was your
oh,
boat trip last week?
wait, what?
How was your yacht trip last week?
Dude, that was maybe 2 weeks ago. Maybe
Oh, two
last
weeks ago.
wait,
Okay.
2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. And then the content just came out. So
Yeah,
I'm not on a yacht every day, okay? So
just
um
every week.
just every week. Yeah. What about the guitar? So are you playing in a band?
Yeah, I actually play live in Marin County.
Wow, I love that.
So thank you.
And
You
and
should come see
where?
me.
I want to see
Uh,
it. Like send us your
uh,
loop link or party for or something.
couple bars. One called No Name in Sausalito. One called Ranch Water up in San Rafael.
Oh wow, I love
Played
that.
at Sweetwater also in Mill Valley.
Why do I feel like I have heard of the thing in Mel Valley?
Oh,
But
it's pretty famous.
okay,
It's one of the original Grateful Dead's guys venue, and they do
yeah.
recordings there, etc.
You know
Great
what?
venue for concerts.
We need to send the audience to there for a minute. Also, like maybe we'll organize a offline meetup for the audience who are tuning in. Uh,
Perfect.
the people who tune in today will get free tickets.
Free tickets. There we go. There's a code waiting.
I'm sure. Okay, so I want to start with your background. So, like, I feel like you're someone I'm like so excited to chat about because I'm like such a huge fan of LinkedIn, and then like I feel like LinkedIn Corp Dev is like definitely a dream job of mine. Like back in time was like starting in venture, and like obviously it's still like amazing job. And maybe we could start with like your early on in your career. So like you started your career as a consultant at Citycom, and then you have worked your way to like at various big companies like BCG, LinkedIn, Oracle. At the end, like as a VP and head of corp dev at LinkedIn before you co-founded your own fund. Maybe we could talk about what were some core lessons that you've learned early on in your career, kind of shape you into who you are today.
Maybe the first lesson is probably one of curiosity. Because if you look at my career, it doesn't look linear at all, right? I'm an engineer by training. I was doing neural networks 20 years ago,
Mhm,
then ended up in finance because I was curious about finance and I started learning it.
mhm,
And throughout my career, I've been in this sort of place between finance, tech, and strategy because I love all these three things and I always sort of go from one to the other. So naturally leads me to from finance to then did my business school,
mhm,
BCG, where I spent between 6 and 7 years doing everything from stuff related to working with CFOs, M&A, tech strategies, etc.
mhm,
Then joined LinkedIn and spent pretty much 10 years at LinkedIn in a variety of roles,
mhm.
product strategy, biz ops for the online marketing business, and then finally the last 5 or 6 years leading the M&A team.
Wow. Maybe we could talk about. I think that's um that's really interesting. So like I wonder like so when I was listening to a podcast that you were on like very towards like MA. By the way, I think like the early on like crypto episode people stayed. By the way, hi Billy. And then yeah, I'm pretty sure the crypto people stayed. But anyway, so I want to start with like I guess like from the M&A experience, I think there's three things I feel like from our previous conversation that I find was really interesting. It was number one is like you use data to kind of like shape a lot of the investment thesis that have like better performance, and then a lot of these like really top like accelerators or a lot of top funds. Um, you are number one in emerging manager for your vintage. Let's talk
That's right.
about like the sourcing philosophy, right? Like I feel like nowadays a lot of people could build AI tools like vibe codes and stuff, but what are the stuff that you actually want to track, right? And then number
Yep.
two is like from your experience, I feel like the core dev part really taught you that like you basically I think the process from my listening to like the other podcasts was like you would chat with different department first, and then you check in like what are some stuff that they feel like should be not like acquired by LinkedIn, but like also LinkedIn should be building, or like just like LinkedIn is interested in like learning. And
Yep.
we could talk about like how does a company get to sold to LinkedIn, and like when you're thinking about the corporate roadmap, like what was the budget that's actually spending on building these tools versus like buying? And then I'm sure you've done a lot of analysis on that. Like, what are some stuff that you feel like will never get bought by a big corp? Versus like what are some stuff that are like, everybody is trying to buy or like trying to build right now? Obviously AI, but
Yeah.
part of it.
So do you want me to start a little bit with corp dev, and then I'll jump into Blue Moon then?
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
I think one of the beauty of the corp dev role at LinkedIn is it's not just traditional sort of M&A banking. It's really a mix of strategy, investment, and M&A. And so as a result, my team was very close, still is very close to the product and engineering organizations. And I think that's part of it's part of really the specialty of M&A corp dev at LinkedIn is they are cross profile. They're almost sort of product managers working with product managers as a bigger part of their jobs to really understand what LinkedIn is trying to build, which market it's trying to enter. And then from there, being able to engage with the ecosystem, figure out who are the interesting players to talk to. And that honestly leads to a number of outcomes. One of them can be M&A. But the first thing is it helps set up the right conversation between LinkedIn and the ecosystem. And then from there, you can figure out partnerships, you can figure out investments, you can figure out M&A. But this is all in service of advancing the strategy or the formation of the strategy, not coming out of left field with, hey, here's a bunch of ideas that may or may not fit what people have in mind. Because that does, at least at LinkedIn, that doesn't really work at all because it's such a product and engineering led organization. One of the things that I have learned and really enjoyed as part of this role, and honestly, why I was excited about it is sort of time you spend with founders, try to understand them and understand what they're building. And sure, from a LinkedIn standpoint, it was try to understand what they're building in terms of what does that tell me about this market? What does that tell me about this company? But I think it's part of the skill set that translates very well over to venture, which is, when for your job you're doing 200-300 meetings with founders every year, you get to understand a lot the founder psychology, and sort of you get to see different profiles of founders, and that I think very much influenced part of how I think about Blue Moon. Another thing that I did at Corp Dev LinkedIn that was aligning with what I was already doing, right? So I've been doing effectively angel investing for over 10 years. We really started as scouts for emergence. But one of the things I was always into was how do I analyze a company? How do I analyze a fund and try to figure out what works, both at the company and fund level? And there's a bunch of metrics. And then I got the chance at LinkedIn to work with Reid Hoffman and the data science team to actually do a project related to that, which was, is there a signal in the LinkedIn data to figure out startup success? Which there are after Series B, but that in many ways influenced or talks about how I view venture and Blue Moon, which we can go into. But the idea was, what can you do to use way more data and insights to be much more effective as an investor?
For sure. Okay, let's talk about the data part. I don't know if you want to show the platform or like you want to basically describe the platform to the audience. By the way, I actually don't know what the comments is about. People are like, anyway, sorry, yeah. I'm too old to understand Gen Z language, but anyway.
Maybe a little bit about the sort of the. Do you want me to give first an overview, Blue Moon, the problem, and then I can go into the showing the platform itself?
Yeah, sure, sounds good.
I mean, in some ways, when we started Blue Moon, or if you want to look at Blue Moon today, it's basically what you would call an AI native fund. It doesn't mean that the AI takes decisions for us, but it means we have effectively re-engineered venture or a venture fund at seed to use data automation and AI first so that we can make the best decisions possible. What that means, so today we're focused on seed, B2B, North America. we effectively have a full-on modern stack that some of it we actually share with other well-known VCs. At a very high level, sourcing and screening is fully automated. We've got a series of agents that help us analyze companies and analyze their space. So we always have all the best information possible. And ultimately, we make the decisions on people, and we have some AI there that helps us make sure we didn't miss green flags, red flags in the conversations. But ultimately, do we like what the company is building? And more importantly, do we think those founders are extremely special? It remains with the humans. But the problem in venture is, if you look at it, and when we started as scouts, you very quickly realize that everybody's doing the same thing. And it is a combination of, I have a thesis, which is really a marketing ploy, and my network will give me the best founders. Everybody does that. It's outdated. And deal flow, to be honest, I think is kind of your question, is deal flow can be completely overwhelming, because in part because now you can buy Harmonics, you can buy Spectre, you can buy a whole bunch of services, and it's a whole bunch of noise. And that's where we started. We started with screening, which is, can you use, in our case, machine learning, unsupervised, to tell you who to talk to? And then once you can cut through the noise, then it's natural to want to see everyone, which is what we're doing. So at this point, we source about 12,000 teams every year. So we don't need a network anymore. We don't need an army of associates to screen companies. The algo basically tells us, from the 12,000 you're seeing, here are the 400 or 500 teams that you should spend time with every year. So that's the context of what we were solving for. So if you will, AI tools make 80% of our work. As I mentioned to you, when I make an intro, I click a couple buttons. All these emails are auto-generated. The analysis I'll show you, I get very detailed analysis on companies. And so AI does 80% of the work, so that basically with two people, we're doing about the same work as a very established seed fund at this point.
I have a few questions on there. So like, I think you're thinking about sourcing, diligencing, winning, and exiting. So I think one part about AI, I think AI does such a great job at diligencing stuff. So like, I feel like because there's so much online information, but I think for the sourcing part, there's still like a lot of nuance to it.
Yes.
Because of like, your chemistry with the founder. Can you kind of like, so like, can you verify like if they are, I think like they set what they are and stuff like that. And then like sometimes when the information got on the internet, it may be a little bit like old to a degree. And then there's also a lot of like social component that you have to really know the platform to know about it. So like, I feel like as a quote unquote like LinkedIn warrior, like I feel like I'm on LinkedIn every day. So I feel like a lot of the data that I've seen is also like the social signal of like who interact with who, or like so mention about something in their like LinkedIn post, like, oh, we did a dinner at like, and then there's like 400 people that like, not 400, like 10 people that like they're tagged. Maybe you like look at their profile and stuff, but like, how do you kind of like evaluate the metrics of these like stuff, right? Like, so what do you consider as high signal? What do you consider as a low signal? And mentioning a podcast, same here. Like, I feel like a lot of the people mention, like, so for example, even on my show, a lot of times I'm mentioning the founder that I backed as an angel. It's not necessarily like I'm like intentionally trying to like hard sell stuff, but it's just like the only company that I know, right? Or like, I'm sure there's like billions of companies like I've never met, and like I wouldn't be able to mention because I actually don't know them. So what's your thought process on like ranking these different systems? And then is everything considered as one point, like no matter where you're mentioned or who you're mentioned by, these are like the stuff that like, we should be tracking. And also the social dynamic is changing a lot, right? So like, so for example, today, so-and-so could be like very hot on like a social media platform, but on the other hand, like they may be like down like tomorrow, because coming from the crypto era, like, there were people talking about like these like the most popular coins, and the next day the newsletter itself shut down, and then like everybody goes to jail. So maybe we could talk about like the evaluation of like the sourcing component.
Yep.
or like the metrics that you're collecting?
We think about the process in gates, in fact. So you pass or you don't pass, and if you don't pass, you don't go to the next step. We don't go back and sort of so source to I like your framework. So sourcing, we use about 20 different sources and techniques at this point to try to see as many founders top of the funnel that look like B2B seed North America, which is what we do. It goes from the obvious public stuff, Crunchbase, Traction, AngelList, what have you, to we have an agent that designs bots to scrape every single accelerator and studio. So we have an agent dedicated to scraping speedrun, for example, and that's how we actually sourced our last investment. Lots of different techniques. There's a pool of people that, because they've been backed by top fund before, or they've been in product or engineering in top companies before, we track these people on a monthly basis, et cetera, et cetera. So sourcing effectively can be noise, but the solution to all of this that we have is we screen by using machine learning unsupervised based on LinkedIn profiles, and it scores the team. And so effectively it gives us a score, which is the evaluation of the algo as to the question, are those people likely to go to a Series B? So from seed to Series B, which jives with the usual saying that at the early stages, what matters is the founders. By the way, the founders know that themselves. And so effectively, because our screening is automated, you can source, and we keep adding ideas for sourcing. And we only talk to teams that score a certain score. So effectively, the top 5% of founders that we see based on our algo. This does not take into account any noise. So we have some people that have very few connections that we may not be really connected to because they're in New York or somewhere else. And of course, you've got some founders and deals that are pretty hot. But we actually get a mix, and we don't get, it's not Twitter sourcing where it's all about who's hot at this minute. The next piece is the evaluation of what they're doing. That's when we engage with them, we talk to them, understand what they're doing. If we like that, that's another gate. At some point, one of the learnings is that as a small check, which we are, you need to avoid adverse selection. What that means is effectively you need to co-invest with good investors. And so I'm not investing because Sequoia is in a company, because if that company doesn't score well according to my algo, I'm not talking to them. But I need somebody good as a signal of future success, because brand matters in venture. And actually brand matters for winning deals, but also for those companies that are funded by Sequoia and Andreessen and Excel. And if that all then checks out, then we spend time with the founders to try to understand, effectively, they're making an irrational choice of being an entrepreneur, you know that. And something is driving them that's usually out of sort of normal experience. And so that's the conversation we're having, literally having a conversation about their relationship with their parents, their siblings, what happened in life that they're effectively signing up for 10 years worth of pain. Once all of those things, and so you get a yes, you get a yes, you get a yes, and then you finally make the decision based on the people. And yeah, at that point we invest. And so I think that helps us stay somewhat protected from hype. One of the things we do consider, though, is attractiveness of market. So why don't I start showing you tools? Maybe more interesting.
Writing it down. Okay, go for it.
All right.
I love seeing like people work at LinkedIn interacting with this tool, because of like it is one of the, I guess, like most like niche tool on LinkedIn though.
All right, so this is before I even talk to a company, the analysis I get on them. So this is an Enigma company that we're investing in. You get obviously all basic information, that's fine. We get a company analysis before we meet them. This is what I mentioned. So this is what we call Da Vinci, which is our AI associate. And Da
Again, I
Vinci,
feel like the first time I saw this, I was so jealous because I feel like this need to exist for podcasts. Like, I mean, I
we're
have.
sharing this with friendly VCs, so we'll find a way to share it with you, Grace.
Thank you.
And it gives us an analysis of what the company does, a bunch of sources if we are curious to learn more about the background. It also generates a bunch of questions that I can ask before and during a meeting with the founders.
Mhm.
So it helps us effectively send an email to the founders before we meet them that basically says, hey, I'm doing my homework, which sadly is pretty rare in venture. And here's the output of my systems. And I have a few questions that we can discuss. And sometimes founders even share sort of feedback ahead of time. I think one of the learning to your framework on winning, founders absolutely love our approach. We tell them from the beginning, hey, you've been found by an AI. Literally, this is the email that we send to founders, right? You've been found by an AI, and here are a few questions that I'd love to discuss with you.
Mhm.
Thanks for the most interesting outreach of the day. I talked to
Mhm.
Joel, and he's a six-time founders, three
Mhm.
exits. He has too many VCs talking to him already. But he said, you're the only one I took inbound because you're actually building with AI. You're an AI native company, and I am too, and I need more people like you around the table. And so this wasn't the intent. The intent was for us to be hyper effective. But the fact that we are building, we
Mhm.
can have a whole conversation about how hard or not it is to orchestrate agents in the background. Still pretty hard. Founders, all of a sudden, we have way more credibility with them, and they absolutely love this approach. They effectively see us more as tech founders ourselves than traditional VCs.
I love that. And like I want to chat more about like, when it comes to like um the analysis, like the data itself, right? So like I think we chat about the sources. Some of them are like social media, some of them are like just like well, everything is public information. But I think like what about the non-public information? So like how do you source a YC company before it's a YC company or a speed run company before a speed run company?
Uh, it comes down to a bunch of sources, right? So we do an ongoing anti-portfolio analysis,
Mhm.
and very early on, one of the things that we realized was we need to meet people early, even though we don't really do pre-seed, we do seed. And
Mhm.
so the some of the sources are very much designed to catch up the minute you're saying you're doing something new on a
Mhm.
bunch of different social platforms, etc. And then from there we do our analysis. But for us, it's totally fine to catch somebody at speedrun. We want to know that usually uh, before they're doing demo day, and so that's why we have a scraper for the speedrun website. YC publishes their list, so it's not hard.
Mhm.
But the reality is, I oftentimes YC founders beforehand, in part because I will find them through second degree connections, for example. So Grace, we're connected on LinkedIn. If somebody either you connect somebody new who's a founder or somebody now declares they're a founder on their LinkedIn, I will know that and I will analyze that person and that company.
Mm. How many do you have to analyze to like get the alpha or like get the how many percent of the people that you will like scrape out basically?
Yeah, we're pretty obsessed with coverage. We estimate that we at this point see 75% of the US market in what we do. Uh, Most VCs calculate it a different way. Most VCs will say, how do I compare to say my top 20 competitors? Of the deals they've seen, how many have I seen? Their coverage is usually 30%, but our coverage, 75%, is really an absolute. So that's 12,000. In fact, we know a lot of top VCs. We share deal flow with them, and we generate 3 to 4 times as much deal flow as the main established VCs in seed. So that's one point. The second point is what do you how do you deal with this? It's 12,000 people. You're like a person and a half in the fund. Like how do you deal with this? It's the algo, and so we screen it down from 12,000 to about 500 people to engage with.
Mhm. Um, when you engage with the people, like what kind of tool do you use to like evaluate when you're engaging with them?
To reach out, you mean?
No, like I think like I saw the reach out email. I think it's pretty good. But I guess like what are some tools like so after you land a meeting with the people, you make sure like there's
Yep.
500 of them that you would like kind of look at per year,
Yep.
right? And then that's already let's say like 3 deals per work day, right? Because there's like holidays, there's a weekend, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. And that's like 3 deal a day. So like how do you kind of like prepare yourself with
Yes.
those deals? And I'm sure you have to like everybody have to like fundraise, everybody have to manage the fund, the operational
Yep.
stuff
Of
for
course.
managing the fund is a lot. So how do you kind of think about scheduling your own time analytically on like how much of the time that you are chatting with the founder? Do you like batch everybody in one day, like let's call it like Monday from 9 to
Oh
10,
yeah, no.
996 or whatever. I don't know. Like what's or like 96 for like a month or something. Or
Yeah. I do it same idea, slightly different. There's a few things. There's a few hours that I block for things like managing the funnel, sort of writing my summaries or writing my conclusions rather on companies. I don't do the summaries, and then sort of fundraising, and then everything else is fair game. But I think you're right. I do talk to about 3 founders a day on average. And so how do I prepare is effectively this, right? So this is our AI associate. So before I meet a company, I get all this information about a company. I get questions to ask them. I also get an evaluation of their market. So I can know basically we define market and segment auto-generated, but I'll just show you one. So I get this is a background, fully AI generated,
Mhm.
very specific to early stage and venture, that effectively tells me all I need to know about a company or about a space here. So the first piece was know what the company is doing and know what smart questions to ask. Two, what environment are they in? What's going on in their market? What are some of the sort of sizing, etc.? Who are the VCs, recent VC investments in the related space, right? So if I track some of the top VCs investment in the space, I get a sense of, is this space being overinvested because a number of people have done a large Series A or a large Series B, or is it still pretty early? And yes, you've got a few VCs that have made interesting investments, but it's still sort of seed, small Series A level. And then finally, I can get a full list of competitors. These is actually very hard to do. Most VCs at seed
Mhm.
don't have that information because the traditional approach is to try to figure out competitors based on your Crunchbase and PitchBook are two broad definitions. Companies pivot and they're not being updated, etc. So it doesn't really work. Ours is regenerated every week
Mhm.
based on an analysis of the problem they're solving. And so this is a sort of a dynamic system that gives us at any time the relevant sort of analysis, comparables, and related investments.
Wow, I love that. I guess like what do you feel like were one piece of insight that you've gained from the experience of like running analysis to like before chatting with founders? And then what are the steps that you feel like people constantly asking you, like the founders, when you hop on a call compared to like traditionally like a VC or angel?
Uh, Founders love this. It's really the learning is I send them an email with sort of the elements I just showed you, which is like, hey, here's what I know about your company. And the feedback generally is, wow, this is a very good understanding outside in of my company. In fact,
Mhm.
if they sometimes they're like, oh, this isn't quite right, but this is because we haven't updated what we're doing or things like that. And so founders really appreciate it as a this is a very good analysis of what somebody external would think of us. So if we're fundraising, this is what an associate would probably come up with a lot of work. Um, it positions us again as non-traditional VCs. They
Mhm.
absolutely love the fact that we're building with AI,
Mhm.
and uh, as far as we know, we're probably the only ones to show them things like that. In fact, we used to be shy about it. And the moment we started saying, hey, we found you with an AI, here is some of the analysis that was generated,
Mhm.
our cold email conversion to a meeting went from 10% to 40%,
Mhm.
which is pretty huge. And then I get to like a 75% conversion overall through intros. Uh, but just the fact that we do this with AI, founders absolutely love and respect us because now they understand that we know what they're building. Like
Mm.
at this point, every company is an AI company except for venture. And so finally, they're like, oh, here's a venture fund that's an AI company.
Totally. I've heard about like so when I was writing my book, maybe like not 10, but like 8 years ago, I was interviewing a bunch of people from the Midas list. So almost every VC firm already have built their own like software. Back in time, it's not called AI, just software
Yeah,
to like track these things, whether it's like, oh, so and so changed the name to like stealth mode, or like, or
yeah,
like, the harmonic of the words, like
sure.
people, wherever people incorporate it's a new thing. So I feel like there's a lot of different tools. Like, what do you feel like they've done right, and what do you feel like they've done like they were like lacking that you kind of fix with your own tool?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, people are trying things. It's a little bit the disruptive versus continuous innovation thing, which is most firms started by saying, of course, I need to do a little bit, if
Mhm.
anything, from a marketing standpoint for some of them. And what they invariably end up doing is sourcing because it doesn't require them to change anything they're doing.
Mhm.
They buy data from harmonics.
Mhm.
Uh, they throw bodies at analyzing the output and they put that into their system. Now, I mean, I work with a lot of them and we've built shared infrastructure. So some people have interesting things,
Mhm.
uh, but for the most part, it centers on sourcing because change is hard is effectively what this is about. You've got a firm with 6 GPs who
Mhm.
all do venture slightly differently, who
Mhm.
then hire teams oftentimes in another country to build stuff.
Mhm.
And it's not the same as being in the trenches, iterating and figuring out the best process possible.
Mhm.
Now we're seeing a limit to this, which is most firms, surprising, I mean, shocking from like people I know where that's at a stage, they're very established brands, they don't have any more management fees to throw around and hire more people.
Mhm.
And so they are finally starting to be like, we need to be more effective with tools because we've reached the limit of the keep adding associates and principals to be more competitive. So things are happening, but we are providing the tools I'm showing you to some VC firms,
Mhm.
which tells you that we're doing something they're not.
Mhm.
And those are very established firms.
Um,
One of the things, sorry, just as an example, because maybe I'll show you.
go for it.
One of the things we do, this is mostly for our friends because it's mostly effective at Series A, but one of the things we do is uh, this piece, the tracking. A lot of VCs at some point, you get trends. So everybody get excited about website traffic. Turns out for B2B, website traffic is just noise. There's very little signal.
Mhm.
One thing we do is every week for thousands of websites, we
Mhm.
track their website structure. And
Wait, what
so
website? What?
the website structure. So as their call to action change, are their pricings change? Have they added new logos? Have they
Mhm.
added new case studies? Are they hiring? And all of these actually give you pretty strong signals
Mhm.
somewhere between seed and Series A if a company is finding product market fit. So you can see like we track all of those things. And it effectively gives us a score that we can then compare week over week. And then from the beginning, we started tracking this. No one
Oh,
else is doing this. We actually provide it to other VCs.
wow. What besides like the website changing, like what are some other alpha that you felt like you have found throughout the process? Obviously, you don't have to share everything, but like just the general direction.
Yeah, I think we think about it as a business. So, and plus I'm ex-biz ops. So I'll tell you, the alpha comes from seeing everything,
Mhm.
It's the 12,000 we're still adding from being able to talk to everyone you want to. And so our conversion to a meeting is 75%. The average VC outbound is 30%.
Mhm.
And then it's being able to pick, which I'll get back to. And then
Mhm.
it's being able to win.
Mhm.
I wrote a post a few days ago about this. Most VCs only win between, call it 15 and 25% of the deals they want to get into
Mhm.
because they lead. That's for lead VCs. I don't lead, so I play a different game. But so when people tell you, oh, I only made 5 investments this year, it really means they wanted to do 20 and they only got to do 5.
Mhm.
Uh, we haven't lost a deal in 3 years. And in
Mhm.
fact, we've lost 2 deals over the entire arc of the fund.
Mhm.
Uh, and that's a key to winning because in many ways, anti-portfolio might be more important than your actual portfolio if you're a VC firm. Because
Mhm.
your entire portfolio is actually, even just that I wanted to get into that deal, it turns out is actually much bigger than your actual portfolio. And so we win, we get into deals. Sometimes we get deals reopened for us afterwards.
Mhm.
And while we offer a number of traditional things, we pay for a number of things to help the company. I help with M&A. The real reason we win at this point is 2 things. One, founders love what we're doing, with which we've talked about. The
Mhm.
second piece is the picking piece for us, which is ultimately, if everything is green flag, we have a conversation with founders, deeply personal, about what drives them.
Mhm.
We know at the end of that conversation, and that's the picking. And honestly, it's not hard. Uh,
Mhm.
we now have backed. Uh, so we have 2 seed to unicorns in the portfolio. We're one of 6 VCs to have done that in the same years. We're the number 1 emerging manager for our year. And in our previous portfolio, we've backed 7 teams that already had built a unicorn. And once you've figured out that standard, the picking is actually not that hard. But for us, the secret is not a secret, is what we started with is it's
Mhm.
all about the people. Seed to Series A, seed to Series B is all about the people.
Mhm.
Our screener is based on the people. Our final gate is based on the people history. And through that conversation, we win because founders understand that they are the product early on,
Mhm.
and they don't understand why no one else is asking them those questions. We've had uh, we're investors in Bordy, for example.
Mhm.
Uh, Matt was also, because it's a team of Clearco folks, was also fundraising for Clearco at the time, and he told us at the end of this meeting, we've made thousands of venture discussions. This was the best. Nobody ever asked us those questions. And but it's interesting because it's not a ploy to get them to take our check.
Mhm.
Like we truly need to understand this. We truly need to understand them as people, which is why this is not AI driven. And at the same time, you end up that conversation in a day or two, you say, hey, I want to put in a 200K check. The
Mhm.
answer is yes. There's no question.
Mhm. Um, I wonder, I want to talk about like, I guess like the relationship piece, like how important that is. Cause I think like you mentioned about like, people are very impressed by the project that you're building or like the tool that you're building, right? I think that's definitely one piece. And then like the other part is like, how do you compete with like the legacy brands? I mean, obviously like the legacy brands may not really see them first, but like I think the shiny logo is something like every
Yep.
founder kind of wants to have. Like people
Yep.
are kind of very picky when it comes to that. Like
Yep.
how do
Yep.
you
Yep.
about that part?
That's why we don't lead. It's a very deliberate choice. We don't lead because of adverse selection. Because if somebody wants me as their lead,
Mhm,
there's a problem.
mhm,
And of course, over time we'll build a brand and we'll be able to make bigger checks, etc. But the where we compete is the 40-50% that's not taken by the lead in a round.
mhm,
And in fact, that's extremely helpful because it means I can be best friend with all the top funds.
mhm,
And the way I do that is through invitations and sharing deal flow. So Last year, I've made 278 intros between founders and top VCs because I found founders early. They don't have a lead. I like what they do. And I reach out to a bunch of folks and I say, hey, I really like Grace. Love what she's doing. I'm digging deeper. Do you want an intro? She's looking for a lead. And I make intros to your foundation, your NFX, your first rounds, all day long, Sequoia, all day long. And so when I want to join one of their deals, usually the founders already said yes, so they're not going to say anything. And B, sometimes they bring me in.
I wonder, so what does your portfolio construction look like? And I think I have a general idea on that. Like, so I would assume you have, I mean, if it's like 250 per check for a $10 million fund, that's 40 deals, or like that's like 30 to 40 deals because of like, and there's also like the fees and stuff. But like, do you think about follow on at all, or like how do you think about that piece? And then like since you don't lead, like what is your kind of target percentage that you're like, or target ownership that you're trying to target? Because I have calculated, so like if you, like for example, if you invest in 40 company, like one of them have to hit like 5 billion valuation, and two of them have to hit like $1 to $2 billion valuation to actually return the fund. And so because of your ownership is so small, by the time that they IPO, it's like half of the ownership already if you don't follow on at all. How do you think about that kind of stuff?
So the first one was 50 investments, no follow-ons. I mean, we actually get oversized allocations because a funny thing is, because we're not a lead, but they know we're very well connected and we have systems to keep on in touch and sort of make sure we know what's going on. So when they get to Series A, we tell them, hey, we can make a lot of intros. So we actually know when they're doing the Series A and we're being helpful. And so at that point, if we want an allocation, we get an allocation because, hey, if you've made an intro to Sequoia first round and Wing, and if you're telling me you want a small check in my Series A, you get a small check in the Series A. But so the new fund will have money for follow-ons. The way we think about it is actually graduation rates and then success rates. And so if you want to break it down today, we are number one emerging manager for the 21 vintage, according to Cardo. Our TVPI is 4.4, and our DPI is about to be 1.4. We're in Mercor at the seed, and we are selling a little bit of our position to return more than the initial money to everyone. So we think about it as graduation rates, because if you have way more companies going to Series A and B than normal, then you win. Our graduation rate is 48%. The average of the top VCs is 35, and the market is 14. Sorry, the average of top VCs without any other thing is 28, and the market is 14.
You mean like they exit, or is it no, they raise the next round
from seed to Series A? Yeah, because in many ways, your job as a seed investor is to pick companies that are going to the next round. Like nobody knew Uber was Uber before it became Uber. The fact is, they actually couldn't get the seed done, like it was horrible, and then ultimately because like one of the biggest venture success ever. So that's the first thing. We have 2 seed to unicorns. To your point, we need unicorns like everyone else. We have more than everyone else. We have 2 seed. So Mercor and DevRev, we invested at seed, and they're already unicorns. The only other investors that have 2 seed to unicorns are Andreessen, General Catalyst, HVC, OpenAI, and YC in the same years. So we're in good company. I will tell you what's in my entire portfolio, not because I couldn't get in, I could get in, but we decided not to your point around ownership, was Perplexity. We passed on Perplexity at 90 million at the sort of seed. And we passed because in part we couldn't run our entire process. I talked to him and he said, if you tell me by tomorrow, you're in. And then it was early days LLM. 90 million sounded crazy at the time, and we ended up not doing
Well, I feel like it's good to have like your portfolio construction set and then really following through because like you
Yeah,
said, it is kind of a portfolio approach. Yes, like, I think everybody has like the anti-portfolio. Um, I guess like one of the things I thought were, um, I guess like maybe we could talk about like, your years of experience on like corp dev. So like
sure.
when you're thinking about strategy, like for a company like LinkedIn back then, I feel like LinkedIn did such an amazing job at like sustainably maintaining the brand to be like the number one in like the job and career kind of like app, right? So like go through so many transitions and like you've seen these like other companies like even Mercor is kind of like a LinkedIn competitor um to a degree, right? Like how do you think about the AI's perspective in like the job space? Like, do you feel like so for example, I think like I went to like a Stanford dinner with like the CEO of Handshake was they're like
Yep.
kind of talking to like 30 founders or whatever at the dinner. And I think like a lot of that, even like when I know that like there is other, companies that are doing like the Gen Z or like AI native approach about job search and like
Mhm.
what do you think from strategy angle? Like, what do you think LinkedIn have done right? And then like, what are some like strategy that you feel like it plays out and then versus like what are not because I think as a creator who came in as a creator from the creator program to the
Yep.
LinkedIn platform, it is I think it's a great job as like transition the firm into some sort of like content generation platform. But what would be your take on like transitioning a brand from like an existing brand to like a AI version of the brand?
The brand or the company?
Both. Like,
Mainly the
because I
company.
actually don't know what happened internally. Because I mean, I'm as an observer or, like, as a user or, like, a power user at this point,
Yeah.
I kind of like, I have some understanding, but I would love to, like, learn from you on, like, what were the strategy that you felt like was working.
I think LinkedIn is very good at maintaining the right balance between the different things it's doing so that it doesn't become just one or the other. So in
Mhm,
some ways, at the center, you've got the engagement, right? Like
mhm,
the flywheel of you find the right audience on LinkedIn, your audience comes on LinkedIn, has a conversation, very brand safe usually, very high quality. Uh, and so that builds the brand, that builds the engagement, that then powers everything else. And then from there, it runs a recruiting business, which is extremely strong because every professional is at some point in a week on LinkedIn,
mhm,
and you can reach out to them on LinkedIn.
mhm,
And then their marketing business, which is also doing very well, uh, because of the quality of the people you can get, the quality of the signals you get, and the engagement you get. And so all of this is powered by engagement. If LinkedIn had tried to overemphasize something else, you could see a scenario where, oh, it folds or it becomes a pretty toxic platform, right?
mhm,
And so they've been very good, I think, at maintaining that balance of the engagement, very high quality, very high noise, very high signal to noise ratio
mhm.
that then feeds these other businesses. But you could run LinkedIn for the short term and sort of ads everywhere, and then you would destroy the sort of the golden goose.
Mm. Um, like when you were thinking about your own starting your own fund, um, I guess like data is like one of the core part of the strategy. And
Yeah.
what were you like? What do you feel like it was your unfair advantage? And then strategically, like how do you see the vision throughout like like 10 years of doing this? Because I think like even today you launched the platform on our platform and a lot of people are building in the AI data space about like different tools. Even I
Yeah.
went to the Vercel hackathon, like or like Vercel demo day, and then I see there's like three people innovating the VC stack.
Yeah.
Um, like what do you think about the long term unfair advantage while like building this platform?
So I think building the platform is still part of the unfair advantage because we're not outsourcing it. Even internal outsourcing, we are the people that are operating it are also the people building it. And so, I mean, we're very friends with very close to James Courier, for example, and he said basically you guys are probably 2 generations ahead of every other VCs out there, which is a high compliment because they're probably the best of all I've seen at Seed in terms of their use of tech. And so, you know, in 4 years, am I only 1 generation ahead? Maybe, but it still is for a period of time very much an unfair advantage. One of the things that's interesting about building with AI is if you are the one building, it unlocks so many ideas because you can see firsthand what you can actually do versus if you're 1 or 2 steps removed between an engineer and a product manager, you get ideas, but you don't know how fast and how deep you can go. And we've tried many things that don't work. Like that's fine too. So I still think how we operate is very differentiated, and we keep building. Like we keep adding systems. So of course, some of it, people are not stupid. People are doing things. I think it's the fact that we're extremely lean. It's the two of us and basically a billion token run rate. Is easier because again, we're not 6 GPs each trying to look at things slightly differently. We have one process, one way of doing things. We change it together, we iterate, it's fast. That still is, you know, in the world of AI, small companies can get very agile and fight bigger companies. That's literally what we're doing. Over time, we're building our brand. Today we have no brand.
I don't think it's no brand. I think it's
we're starting to have a brand, but like when we started, no brand. We're not the traditional background. We're not ex-founders. We're not ex-VCs, even though we know venture very well.
I can't believe, like, I feel like you have such a successful career that you feel like you are still like starting from day one. It's so I feel like entrepreneurship is to a degree so stressful. Like everybody, even they are like on top of their own game when it comes to venture capital, starting a fund or starting a company, you start from scratch. It's like it's such an interesting concept. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah, still very much paranoid.
Do you envision like the future of VC? Oh, by the way, like Olivier, said like future of VCs now. Thanks, Ben. And like when you're thinking about like building the future of venture capital, like do you feel like so one part is like I think everybody start from seed is because of the seed. You don't need to raise like so much money to invest in seed, right? And then but like on the other hand, like when the company gets bigger, I feel like there's like a huge gap of like people, like there's only like 5 firms that like are investing, not 5 firms, but like very small amount of firm that only invest in like Series A and above. Even to hit to Series A, it's already kind of like a mold because of like so many emerging manager. Everybody just focus on C, right? Because it's, you know, to raise your first fund, it's like a lot. What's the future of the venture capital landscape? And then when you're thinking about your own firm, do you feel like you want to build like a legacy firm, like agency, like, you know, 1,000 people, like doing 1,000 things? Or do you feel like the future of VC is just 2 guys in a garage, continuous building?
I think it's both. I think the future of like you've got your A16, your Sequoia, your General Catalyst. They're basically becoming what people call VC banks, right? They manage billions and billions, and because of those means, they can have a crazy, in a good way, a crazy good platform for founders later stage. And that's their job. Like Andreessen needs to find a company that they put $1 billion in to return 3 or 4x, like that. It's perfect. The challenge in doing this, they squeeze a lot of the funds in the middle that are not as big and don't have as big a brand, and that's where the venture market is hurting, because that's where people are starting to say, I need to find other solutions because I need to find deals before Andreessen. I need to be more nimble, faster, and that's not how they've been built before. They had a good brand at Series A, and now all of a sudden that brand doesn't carry them as much as they thought, or as they used to. On the other hand, I compete in the small emerging manager, small check, and it's great. I have a moat. I've built a whole bunch of tech that cost me money, but basically a little bit less than the price of one associate. And so I can operate in that niche, and that's where we have secret sauce. So the our system, our algos are very geared towards seed. Definitely not want to go and compete bigger, and so that
Mhm.
comes with its limitation, as you said, right? Like I'm not going to be a $300 million seed fund if I don't lead, etc. But that's fine. I will stay there. But then what we can do is sort of start investing in other areas. So we will probably hire somebody to do venture, fintech in the US, or things like that. And so reproduce a 50, $60 million funds. So my goal, to your point, is not to be the next Andreessen, but my goal is to be the best seed focused investor.
I wanna. Oh my god, I don't know why people are trolling, but Molten VC LOL. But it is very like real, like Molten VC.
The
I
brand is the number one moat for the established firms, for sure.
For sure. I wonder. Okay, another thing is like I applied your thesis this weekend, so like
Hmm.
I judged at a hackathon in San Jose. Like it's from like a lot of like Berkeley and Stanford student, yada yada.
Nice.
And then so in the hackathon, so I did obviously I use like I basically vibe code with like primarily a GPT wrapper to screen the the I feel so bad to say this because I know that every founder made so much effort into going through like putting together the deck, the GitHub link, blah blah blah. But so I basically did like a scanner. Actually, the scanner works really well. Like among the 5 company that I um scan, and then there's like I mean I judged like the two I like basically submitted 2 companies and they both made it to the people with the cash price. So like
Yep.
there's like only 6 company I believe have like the cash price amount like the 40 something and 60 something companies. And
Yep.
then the 2 out of the 5 company that well I didn't really submit 5 company. I submit 2 company out of the 5 company that I ranked and they both perform really well. And I wonder, but the challenge is like I think I was very heavy on using ChatGPT to evaluate the code base on GitHub because
Hmm.
I'm not technical. Like I mean, I can read something, but like I mean, I'm definitely not an expert. But what's your thought process on like technical diligence in this? Because a lot of the early stage founders, like their technology is very innovative, it's very new, and how do you know that like if this is like actually good or not, like the technical mode and then the technical like perspective on stuff. And then by technical I don't mean just coding, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I also mean like because of the 2 company that I ranked, one is like in the medical space. It's literally like a neuro heart
Yep. Yep.
surgeon, that kind of stuff. Like, so I wonder, like, how do you kind of like even that the industrial stuff? Because that's what Ace and Z and other firm that has built like a platform to like kind of like have people who are like let's sell to this company or like let's sell to Sutter House because we have like the
Yep.
professor of Sutter House as our advisor. So that kind of stuff. So how do you kind of like evaluate both the potential like industry domain knowledge and
Yep.
like the technical mode?
Uh, so we evaluate a couple of things. One of them is the team, right, and the fullness of the team. Do you have people that you believe are technical enough to actually execute on the vision?
Mhm,
I'm not good diligencing what they do specifically,
mhm,
but I again, the whole thesis of the fund is effectively you're backing people in areas you can understand,
mhm,
which is not that hard, but turns out, sorry, as a thesis, it's not that hard to understand. It's pretty hard to put in place. The One of the things we think about is sort of, it's actually a portfolio construction in a different way, is the types of founders we back. And there's 2 things that we tend to gravitate towards. It's either one, the story of somebody who's seen disruption and is able to go disrupt another space, even if they don't necessarily have a deep insight,
mhm,
to start with. So a company in our portfolio is this company called Archie. It's
mhm,
the ex payment team at Uber.
mhm,
they've done things at like incredible scales, and they've also done things that have exploded in their face when they launched in Australia and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Turns out Jonathan, his now wife, is a dentist. And so he started looking into the tech stack for dentists, and he was like, this is all crazy. I'm going to change this industry. And that's what he's doing. And so he is very much the archetypical, I'm a disruptor and I'm going to take the disruption playbook. And so is he an expert in dentistry? No. Can he get there because the industry is fairly standard and you can understand the workflow? 100%. And then he will apply disruption to it. The other end, you've got people who are deeply obsessed about what they're doing and have insight. And it applies in different industries. So a company we're backing is called Enigma Aerospace, which is aerospace for, drones for logistics.
Mm-hmm.
He's been obsessed with drones since he's 7 years old. He's already done a drone company, sold a drone company. He's doing another one. He literally showed us in the personal part of the interviews a framing. His mom had framed a drawing he did when he was 7 of a self-driving plane where he had written "Do not copy, patent pending." Like that, that's all he does all day long. And so, do I need to know that he's very deep about drones? Like I know he's obsessed, and we've talked about it. So that's my proxy for your question.
I want to be mindful of the time, though. I have like 4,000 questions, but
We'll do a follow-up.
I know. Yeah. I want to wrap with a quick fire run. What's your favorite book?
That I've read recently is probably Hail Mary. It's turning into a movie next year. I'm very excited about this.
I thought it was a Broadway show. Is it?
Hail Mary, no. I mean, there may be a Broadway show by the same name, but ChatGPT turned me into reading sci-fi recently, and this is an amazing book.
Wow. Who would you invite to your dinner party?
Who would I invite to a dinner party? My friends.
Am I your friend? I'm just kidding.
You can come.
Thanks. Who made the biggest impact in your career?
Probably my best friend from afar, because so I'm French originally. My best friend is still in France, but we had similar career paths, and we've always challenged each other from afar, basically, because we can talk about anything, so we can be real about any problem we're having. And in some ways, that coupled with positive energy of like wanting the best out of each other really drove.
Love that. Where can we find you outside of work?
Probably playing guitar and singing somewhere in a bar.
I mean, I can't wait for your ticket to be sold out from our audience.
100%.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was such a fun conversation. Also, shout out to Jason for the intro.
Of course. Thanks, Jason.
Okay.